This is Damian Macy, representing the Friends of the Marshall Public Library in our Oral History Project. Today is Thursday, December the 3rd of 2015, and I'm visiting with Kay Miller. She does not live in Marshall today, but is a Marshall resident many years ago, and was a former member of the community. I'm visiting with her today at her sister's house, Agnes Miller, on North 13th Street. So with that, I'll introduce you to Kay.
Hello, everybody. My name is really Catherine Rose Staub Miller. And when my first memory is, maybe I remember this, and maybe it's just my sister telling me what happened. But I was playing on the bed in the boys' bedroom in Clarksville, where we grew up, and we jumped up and down on the bed, and I guess one of my brothers had a bolt there from a Model T, and somehow I swallowed it. And my mom didn't drive. We didn't even have a car. So my sister told me that my Aunt Georgie, I don't even know how they got a hold of her, but she did have a car. And she brought us to Marshall, and there was a Dr. Ilyas here. Mm-hmm. And I remember he said, what do you got? And I said, like this. I opened my mouth, it's pointing my finger, And he said, well, I'm really sorry, I can't get it out. Now, part of this is from my family, because I don't remember all of it. And I guess my Aunt Georgie then took me to Terre Haute.
I want to back up, Kay. That Georgie was Georgie Connerton.
Yes,
right?
It certainly was,
okay.
And she was my aunt,
right.
My dad's sister. Mm-hmm. And she lived in Marshall and taught school in Marshall, Illinois for probably 50 or 60 years.
She was my second grade teacher.
Really? Oh, wonderful. Yeah, she was a wonderful teacher. Yeah. Everybody loved her.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to get that name down.
Yeah. Well, everybody loved her for teacher.
Oh, yeah.
And she lived to be, I believe, 104 years old. Maybe 104 and a half, for all I know. But it was wonderful just to celebrate 100th birthday. Anyway, back to my throat. They said, what do you have? And I pointed again, But I guess they got it out because here I am. But that's all I did. I just remembered, just little bits of that myself. And I don't really know how old I would have been. Probably 3 or 4, maybe. Little, anyway. Yeah. And we only had 2 bedrooms in the house. We grew up out in Clarksville, Illinois, and my mom and dad, the house was new when they moved in, but they had 9 kids, and 1 miscarriage my mom had, and that miscarriage was buried out underneath one of the trees in the side yard. I guess that's how they did it in the old days. It was
you might just mention your mother and dad's name also.
Yeah, my mom's name was Annette Agnes Waller Staub, and she was 30 years old when they got married. So it was, remarkable that she had 9 kids, and all of us were alive and well, and most of us were born without a doctor around. Either my dad or there was a I think they called her a midwife or something like that, who lived in the neighborhood, maybe 4 or 5 miles away. So my dad probably used a buggy or a horse and to go get her to help. But we all grew up. I mean, 2 of us ended up with...
His name was Joe? Your dad's name was Joseph?
My dad's name was Joseph Ferdinand. Okay. I don't even know. No, I'm sorry. Joseph Benjamin Staub. And he had moved here from Lawrence, Kansas, I think, because
Really?
with his parents, and they came out from there in a little covered wagon and walking to get to Marshall. So they lived in, well, actually, they didn't live in Marshall. They lived out in Clarksville, and they had a big home out there that they built. I don't know. The house had a great big, big house because there were a lot of kids. And then they had, in the old days, what they called a summer kitchen. And they didn't, if there was a fire or something, it didn't burn your house down. And it also kept your house cool in the summer.
Kept the cabbage smell out of the house, too.
Yeah, that's right. And because there was a lot of cooking,
Oh, yeah.
with that many kids who were in this cooking all the time.
Hey, do you know what brought your family or your dad's family from Kansas all the way out here to Illinois?
Maybe they were homesteading. I don't know.
Could be.
See, they were covered wagon, and
Yeah.
that was before my time, and my dad would have been a little boy.
Oh, yeah.
And then,
But that's quite a hike from there back
Yeah.
to here.
but I never did ask
Okay.
him anything really about it other than that's where they came
Just
from.
thought you might
And,
do it.
my sister Ag said she didn't think they came from Kansas. I mean, from out there, Lawrence, Kansas. But I said, well, I think that's what Dad told me.
Okay.
And but anyway, when he after he grew up, he was met. I don't know how he met my mom, but she was 5 years older than him,
Okay.
and she was 30 when they married, and he was 25, and he almost didn't get to marry her because my mom had a younger sister named Zita Hugo, Zita, Z-I-T-A, and she was Zita Waller at that time, and so she was telling my dad to be, I bet you won't flip. My mom would be Annette. I bet you wouldn't flip Annette with that dishcloth, would you? And in the old days, people did that. That was a sport. They had this big long square. And you could flip it. And so I can't remember if he flipped it or not, but if she just anyway, they ended up getting married. But I just remember that story. But people did do that flipping with the.
Do you by any chance remember what year they were married?
And what year were Mom and Dad married?
What?
What year were Mom and Dad married?
It's not critical. I just thought you might.
Well, no, I don't really know.
Bernard was born in 1920, wasn't he?
I don't know. So and they were married 9 months when they got married. I mean, when they had.
I think they were married in 1920.
Okay, that sounds good enough.
Just thought I'd put that in.
So yeah,
Thank you.
and then they had a baby right away, and another baby right away, and another baby right away, and another baby.
Well, they had 9 of us in 14 years.
Wow.
I thought it was 13, because when Bernard was 13, there were 9 of them.
14.
Well, she says 14. Between 13 and 14.
That's quite a household.
Yeah. And we did have a lot of fun. We did a lot of things together because the houses were not close. The closest house was probably, I'm not sure about Kirshner's, but when I grew up, there was a house down there, and it would be probably a fourth of a mile at least.
So that. Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I can remember very vividly about the neighbors, at Christmas time, this little girl came down to play. And I knew her from grade school. And she had never been there to play before. And I had gotten a new Shirley Temple doll for my birthday, which is January the 13th, and Christmas present together. Because that was an expensive present.
Sure is. Wow.
And she came down to play during the Christmas holiday, and she held my doll and dropped it on the floor. and they were made out of composition, and it split the doll all the way down through her face like that. There was absolutely no way you could have glued it. If you did have miracle glue like they have now, it still would have been ugly, because just her whole face was just amazing.
Oh my gosh.
There went my beautiful birthday present. The only time she'd been out to play. Anyway, that was something sad that made me feel real
That'd be
bad.
devastating.
Yeah, because we didn't get toys, you know. Christmas, we had a coloring book and a set of crayons. And then the family would get a game like checkers or fiddlesticks. Did you ever play fiddlesticks?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Well, we did a lot of that. And then I don't know that we received decks of cards, but that's something that was always played, cards. All kinds of cards, usually rummy or euchre. Mm-hmm. Euchre was the main thing that my mom and dad played. And the churches would have euchre parties to make... I don't know if they made money doing it. And do you know if they made charge to play euchre? She disappeared. Well, anyway.
Now, this was supposed to be your story.
Well, it is. I'm asking you a question. Did they charge to play euchre when they would play euchre parties?
Oh, yeah, it was a benefit.
Well, that's what I wondered. I thought
Bridge and euchre parties.
Yeah.
Usually on St. Patrick's Day. And then, did you happen to tell him about Dad's hunting friend?
Father Donahue?
Or do you even remember?
Father
Dad had a
Donahue.
hunting friend that always sent us Christmas presents, a whole box of stuff
the
at
one in
Christmas
Paris?
time. No, he was from Chicago.
Who was it?
Well, you don't remember it then.
No, I remember the one in Paris that used to Mary made him a pie. Parrish.
Alan Parrish.
Alan
yeah.
Parrish.
But then he didn't do the Christmas stuff.
Well, I don't know about him.
Well, you don't know about
I
it.
never met him.
So it can't be a part of your story.
We'll get that on your story then. Abby.
You remind me.
I do that. With all of these children in the household, did you have chores divided up of who had this and who had to do that?
Well, the girls all did the inside stuff, and the boys did the outside stuff. And so, but we all worked in the garden. Oh, did we work in the garden. Goodness gracious, we had this huge, great big garden. Because back then, there were no stores.
Right.
Oh, I suppose there were a few, but I mean, you know, there was Clarksville, which was a little over a mile from our house. They had what they called general store. Mm-hmm. And in the front, they had gas tank, you know, to fill your old car up with gas. And then there was a residence in the middle, and then the big long sidewalk walked up to the school. And it was a 2-room schoolhouse.
Yeah.
And about a fourth of a block from the general store was another general store. And he had a filling station in front of, when I say filling station, it was just one
Gas pump.
gas pump. And usually they had, when they said general store, it was like, you know, like the dollar stores are now. They have everything in them. Mm-hmm. But it was not huge. It was just a long store with by the shelves.
Do you remember the names of the people that owned those stores?
Yeah, Emma Fox. And I sure do remember because I shouldn't put that in there. But Reba Lee would, her mom and dad told her that she could, you know, buy things, and she would buy them, put them on credit.
Oh dear.
So we were never allowed to do that, you know. But we could stop in there and get warm because we had a long way, you know, a mile walk to get home in the snow or the blizzard or the rain or whatever it was doing out there. And but we could, before we would go up to the school, sometimes we could go in there and warm our hands on the big pot belly stove. And then I remember this one time Emma Fox was, he liked to talk to us. He was a really nice man. And I think the mom's name was Ruth, or maybe that was her daughter. But I think her name was Ruth. But he would talk to us, and just a real nice man. Maybe he might give us a sucker or something.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, that was a
Special
real
treat.
treat. Yeah, and because we didn't have any money, we just stopped in to visit with him, talk with him. And then I remember this one time we were doing something, and I had my hands out. I was supposed to keep my eyes shut, and I had to turn around, and I hit him in the head. He said, "Girl, you hit me in the head." And I opened my eyes and, "Oh, I'm sorry, you know."
Did someone else in the family put you up to that?
No,
Oh, okay.
no, it was a game that we played.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe he just happened to walk in and to see what we were doing, and I had my hands out and popped him.
I remember the phrase trading was used with the grocery store so much. Everyone went to do their trading. And I
Yeah,
think that went back to the fact that you brought in eggs
eggs.
and things and traded
Exactly.
for other items in the store.
Yeah.
Did your
Yeah.
folks do that?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And they had when I was in 4-H, I had a 4-H project, which was I chose to raise little ducks,
Boy.
and I had 101 little ducks, and one of them only had one leg and a little stub. And do you know I raised every one of those ducks?
For heaven's sakes.
I did. And they were, my mom and dad it was my 4-H project, but then Thanksgiving time, they would, I guess, you can't butcher them. What you do, you'd clean them. And then they would bring it to town. And then I don't know, maybe they were bartering or, you know, people would order, and then sometimes it might even be here because my sister, who has been coming in talking with us, was at that time was working as a beautician, and they might have. And my aunt Odelia Dobb Miller had a beauty shop on the what did they call that? It was an old hotel.
Hotel. It's the Archer House. And at that time, I think it was called the National Dixie.
I think it was too, Dixie Hotel.
My mother used to get her hair set there.
Did you from that?
Permits and
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah. And remember how? Did you ever go in there and see the permit?
I thought that looked like a torture machine.
Oh yeah, it was like all these little things from a heated element, you know, and they all had all these little things all over their hair, getting a permit or.
You mentioned school. Did you go to school in that two-room school in Clarksville?
I sure did.
Can you talk a little bit about that school?
Oh,
I think
yeah.
It was most schools were a one-room school, but that one was kind of unusual. Didn't it have two
We had two.
rooms in it?
And the big kids were in the big room.
Hello?
I mean, the little room. Well, the first room. And then the other one. Of course, it might have been an annex, you know, added on. It might have just been the one long school room at one time. But the teacher would get there before we did. And
Did you
fire.
need
what?
your sister was there, and I thought she needed something.
Oh, fire up the furnace, or heating stove is what it would be, and when the furnace, and then he would, or sometimes she, because my Aunt Georgie taught school down at Pikes Peak, but we attended school at Clarksville. And my first teacher was Mrs. Redmond, I believe was her name. And in order to go to the bathroom, if you held up one hand, that meant you had to go urinate. And if you had two hands, you got spatial attention because that meant you had to have a BM. And they didn't like for two people to be out of the classroom. And so if you wet your pants, it was bad news. And I think I did wet my pants one time.
And in the winter at 5 below, that wasn't very comfy either, was it?
Not at all. But, you know, some kids did wet their pants. You'd see this big pool around their seat. Do you remember any of that? Did you have any like that?
I did not go to a one-room school, but my mother taught 35 years, and the first many of them were she taught at Pikes Peak and Stringtown and a whole bunch of English schools. So she had some interesting stories to tell.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah. Well, my Aunt Georgie, you know, she taught at Pikes Peak too.
Uh-huh.
And I believe that my Aunt Martha did. Martha's Pyrrhus Staub.
Oh, yeah. She and Mother were very good friends.
Really? Oh, that's nice. Was nice, I guess. Yeah. Okay, now what else you want to know?
Well, I just thought maybe you might tell a little bit about that school.
Well, it was
Did
a
you
two-room, and like I said, we had the first, second, and third, and fourth in the one room, and then if that other part was added on, I don't know, maybe we were all in this one room at one time. But as I got older, they had the fourth, fifth, and sixth in the big room.
Did you felt as a youngster, were you listening to some of the recitation of the older ones, that you were learning something maybe you didn't even know you were learning?
We were taught a lot of times by the 8th grade
class.
kids. And they would come listen to us read.
Okay.
And many times I was the only one in my grade. It's time for you to come read, Catherine. You know, so you would go up there and read, and they didn't tell you how to sound out words or anything. I can't do that today. If I learned that when I was a little kid, it would have been really great. Yeah, my niece, my nieces, but my daughter, she'll help me pronounce some of the words that I sang. She said, well, Mom, don't you know that? And I said, no, I never learned how to sound that stuff out.
Did you do a lot of work on, say, the blackboard or slates to get?
Oh, they
lessons
had it, but I think the bigger kids did. We didn't. I remember sometimes I washed them, after school. You had to clean the school for the next day. So you'd help do stuff,
Some dust off of the erasers?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They were black.
Oh, yeah.
With the ridges in them. Oh, yeah. And take that outdoors and say if they'd see you do it.
What do you remember about, say, recess?
Well, usually they would they sometimes didn't have everybody out at one time. Because sometimes the recess would be for the little kids. And then later for the bigger kids. And but we became very friendly when we were, playing. And I'll never live my meanness away because, they had these triangle swings, and then they would twirl around, and you could get them on the outside and then jump on the side and you twirl with the rest of them. For some reason, now this is very bad. If they also would go like this toward that iron part that was the spinner. And I said, why don't we catch that little girl's hands in there? No, wouldn't that be horrible to get we couldn't do it. But I mean, I did think
Thought
that.
process.
Yeah. And I thought that was so mean. No, I mean, I don't even know if we tried it, but I remember thinking, oh, that'd be fun. And I thought, well, boy, that would really hurt if you got your fingers caught in there. Because that would be iron on iron.
It's like a clamp.
Yeah, and I thought I was a nice person, but I did think that.
When you were out playing, do you think of some of the games that you played?
Yeah, we've always played Black Man, and then Come Over, Rover,
Rover,
come over,
Rover.
come over. And handy over. And somebody said it's Andy over, but we always called it handy
Handy.
over. And you'd throw the ball over the top of the school building, and then when they caught it, somebody on the other side, they'd all start sneaking around, and then when they saw it, they started chasing you. And I don't remember if anybody they hit with the ball, they could throw the ball at you, and if they hit you, you had to go on their side. Did you play that?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you call it Andy over?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's what
Sure
I
did.
call it. And then blind man, well, it wasn't, we just called it come over, come over. Rover, rover, come over, come over. And we would make a line like this. We might have 6 or 8 people on this side and 6 or 8 people on that side. And that was always kind of, I always felt sorry when they picked 2 teams, because 2 people would be the pickers, and then somebody always had to be the one that was
Last.
picked last. And I always felt bad about that, because usually it'd be, one of the kids that were poor or
Many
something.
times it was the same one too, I bet was
Yeah. So we all went through that sadness, yeah, because I always felt sorry for those people.
So did you go all 8 grades then to the Clarksville school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, sometimes I was the only one. When I was in the 8th grade, I believe I believe Aunt Martha was my teacher at that time, and she challenged me sometimes. I thought, well, I will show her. I will memorize this whole thing. And I memorized something, I don't know what it was, and I can't even remember it now what it was. But I remember the whole, like maybe the Declaration of Independence or something. It was,
Gee, it'd be kind of long.
yeah. But I thought, well, I'll just show her. I'll just memorize all that.
Was she impressed by it then?
I don't remember. I don't remember that part. I was impressed that I could do it, but I really didn't.
And you mentioned walking to school. I know there were not school buses.
You're right. There weren't any cars either.
So those roads were not paved either. that you
That's
walked
right.
on.
Rock roads, and I have Neve right now, or maybe it were both of them. When you walked home from school and you had all that snow, and they didn't have snow plows or anything, it's finally, after enough traffic had gone through it, 2 people, they'd have cars. We did have 1 car, because my dad at that time was a salesman for Mormon's Feed. And so when he first started selling, he was on a horse. He did that. But later, they got a car, and I don't remember I remember we had a Hudson one time, and maybe a Ford. But the only time your car was used was for Dad to go to work and to come to church on Sunday. And during Lent, we came to church at night for the Lenten devotions. And then, like I said, my mom and Dad came to shop on Saturdays. My mom never drove ever. But they made the shopping day on Saturday.
Was most of your shopping done then at Clarksville, or did you come into Marshall for some?
Well, I never did get to go shopping. That was my mom and Dad would do the shopping. And they didn't shop at all when I was little. This is when I was older. See, because it was like there were 2 families by the time I was old enough to run around and help do anything. My sister had gone away to beauty school at Paris, and she was going to work with my Aunt Odile at the Dixie Hotel. And I asked her, I said, "Ag, how did you happen to be a beautician?" So I guess she had to make a choice there of what, she was the oldest one in the family to go do anything. And Bernard had married. he and his, I'll say fiance. They didn't. No, I never heard that word until now, or later. But his girlfriend. It was a girlfriend. He and his girlfriend, I think, might have eloped, but he was only 17,
Oh my.
and she was 17. Her name was Gladys Bruner, and I don't know if she had a brother, but she had a sister, Bernice, and a sister, a younger one. I can't remember her name. I want to say Dorothy, but I'm not sure. But the marriage worked out very nice. It was a very nice marriage that they had, and they had first little boy, Jimmy, and they moved to a town down on Route 1 called, it's a pretty name. Well, anyway, that's a senior moment. Okay, but they lived in Aroma Park.
Oh yeah.
And it was the nicest little place, and she was pregnant. I remember I saw her out probably with the second little boy. She was hanging up clothes. You saw her stomach. Of course, now people try and show that they're pregnant.
Wasn't the case years ago.
No, you hit it. Gosh, see, no, the biggest dress you could find, they didn't have what they called real
Times have
maternity
changed.
clothes. But I remember her hanging up clothes, and I saw her bare tummy, because she had her hands up hanging up clothes outside. So,
When we talk about clothes and all, and I think of a family of 9 children,
hand-me-downs.
my goodness, your mother must have had a horrendous wash day.
Oh, my mother and my dad.
Mhm.
On wash day, my dad stayed home, and we had the old well. See, we had no running water in the house. So on wash day, my dad stayed home, and on the old cook stove in the kitchen, you had what they called a double boiler or something.
Reservoir.
Yeah, okay. On the right-hand side, and then you put your wood or sometimes maybe pieces of coal in the top part, and you had a kettle and a big boiler there on top of that, and then the one on the stove attached to the stove. So that was going to be your hot water. And then the dining room was the sorting room. So white clothes went there, colored clothes went there, towels and sheets went there, overalls went there, dirty clothes went there. So then on wash day, all the huge big buckets, and they have them now, galvanized big tubs, they called them, galvanized tubs. And you had the washer itself, you filled it with the hot water. And then you had 2 rinse waters. And then the old stove, the old machine.
Well, I thought you told me you had a
step
ride
on it.
home.
And then you had to stomp on it to get it started. It'd be a gas.
Gasoline engine.
Well,
Uh-huh.
I thought,
And then you had to
bread in the
fill
oven
it.
right now, so
You
I
know, to
can't
get it-
come
Then
for a
stomp
little
it.
while.
Get it running. And then after you got it running, then I guess that made the ringer go round.
Well, that's too bad. I can't be there
The
until 5
agitator?
to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because the ringers, did the machine run the ringers, or did you
No.
have to crank them by
She's-
hand?
Oh, you
She's
mean the
being
ring? That
interviewed
kind of
for
ring?
a-
No.
Yeah.
A talk thing. right
No,
now.
I'm not sure. I don't remember. I think
Let me get back
probably
to what
a
I'm
bit
doing.
of both.
I'll cut.
Maybe a bit of both. Because I'm sure
I owe
that
you
it
an
wouldn't
apology
dry
anyway.
out a big thing of overalls
$10
and
was
stuff
on the
like
floor.
that. So that kind of stuff you
Okay,
probably had to wring out by
Well, it'll be a
hand.
little bit.
But
Will you be in the parking lot?
clean, the clean things, dresses, and we didn't have that many
All
clothes
right, I'll come
anyway.
down Fifth Street.
But with that many kids, you ended up with a lot. But
You had
nobody, no. When you came home from school, you took that dress off and you hung it up, or laid it over a chair or something. You didn't play in it, and you put your play clothes on.
And
then
Sunday were Sunday clothes, and when you got home, you had play clothes to put
that's
on.
exactly. And when you went to school, you had your school clothes, and you came home and you put your play clothes on. And those play clothes lasted all week.
Sure.
Or you might have a change of dress maybe during the week, but probably not. You probably wore that school
And if
clothes.
the knee went out of something, you wore it anyway, right?
No,
Mom
my
patched it?
my mom had this big pile of she was forever darning socks. Because I mean, with that many people, you just
Make it
had,
last.
yeah. Then she darned darns. No kidding. You know, because the darn would wear out and she would darn over the darn.
Did she make any clothes herself?
No.
Okay.
She knew how, I think, but no, she would never have had time to do that. Because with all the cooking that she had to do. And then she probably did the dishes and stuff like that. But when we grew up a bit, you know, we were the dishwashers and dryers because you had to do the dishes in order to have the next meal.
Yeah, sure.
So if you wanted to eat, you get out there and do the dishes so we can eat.
Uh-huh. With the living where you did your dad have some livestock and do butchering so that you had your own meats? You mentioned the garden, so really you were pretty self-sufficient.
Oh,
in
yeah.
being able, whatever went on the table came out of your own
Came
place.
out of the field, which is like a field of corn. You got some corn out of there, but you also had sweet corn that was growing in your garden.
Right.
No, the gardens were huge, and everything that we ate came out of a can that we canned. It was a glass jar. Usually they were green with the screw lid. And they invented another type later that after you could put this little flat disc in this ring on top of your can of your glass jar. And then you boiled it in, what did they call those big cookers?
A canner.
Yeah.
What Mother called hers.
A canner? Well, that probably was. You bolted the thing together and it had a
Pressure cooker.
pressure cooker, yeah. Pressure cooker. Yeah, so you had to, everything we used was canned.
Did your mother can meats also?
I don't think so. I don't believe we did. We had cured bacon.
Okay.
I know that, and that was just left on the porch, you know, because it's cold.
Oh.
And then when you wanted bacon, they sliced off bacon for breakfast. And then I guess they ground, I mean, my dad used to grind meat. We had what's called a food grinder.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, we had one for sale at our garage sale this summer. And then I saw one in the antique that looked just like ours with the same number on it. It was $28
Wow.
for this. But you fastened that onto a bench. And then you sat there, and then you put pieces of whatever you were doing, like maybe it was going to be hamburgers. So you would take the meat and stick in the hole, and then grind it. And
Mother's meat grinder like that had different plates too.
Oh, yeah.
They were different sizes, so for
Exactly.
different foods you used different plates,
Yeah.
and that depended on the size or how much it was cut up.
yep, exactly.
So with the, I guess I could just hardly vision it. Did your mother have special? Did she have a double stove, or to cook that many things all at one time?
It was just a big
Just
stove.
a big stove.
No, it wasn't a double stove. It had the one fire, and then you had to, you know, it wasn't self-maintaining. You had the ashes that you had to scrape out and take the ashes outdoors. Of course, you use the ashes then to make soap. I mean, truly, our whole household was self-sustaining that
Wow.
for years
Wow.
until, you know, till probably my sister Mary and Pat and I grew up because we were the three last babies, and I think that probably my mom and dad raised us quite differently than the bigger kids.
Why?
Because, for one thing, they were older
Uh-huh.
and there weren't a lot of kids. We would sit down to eat. There were 5 of us, mom, dad, and 3 girls. Well, then, actually, my brother Donald was still at home, but my brother Morris had gone to. He studied to be a repairman for televisions. He was very good. He could do a lot of good things, but he was drafted into the Navy, and that's where my older brothers were. They were drafted into the war,
Okay.
and except for Bernard. Now Bernard was married and had 3 kids and a wife, and I think
So
he was maybe
deferred then.
yeah. So he didn't go, but my brother Joe Jr. did. He was on submarine. And my mom and dad went to see them to Manitowoc, I believe was the name of the town in Wisconsin. And to see the name of they christened the submarine that he was going to be on. They went up to see that. So that was nice. And then my brother Larry was in the Navy too, but he was on an LS something or other. You know, I should give you some of those tapes. I have his tapes. He told this whole story to his family,
Wow.
and I haven't heard them all, and it's up at my house. So, you know, I'll bet that would be wonderful to have.
Yeah, I think the library could probably copy that in some fashion and let you keep. Certainly would want to keep the original. I think they could probably copy that. That'd be great.
That would be a good idea, yeah. Well,
Do you remember? You mentioned the coal and the wood and
coal.
the stove and all
Oh,
of
yeah.
that, and I know you use that to keep the house warm with too.
yeah.
Do you remember? Did Mother somewhere along the way have that great thing happen to get a gas stove in the kitchen?
The other had one I think they called it a coal stove.
Okay, kerosene or coal oil.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think
that
they
was-
called it coal, but it might have been kerosene, but I think
Okay.
they called it coal oil.
Uh-huh. So I bet that was a big change then, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, because you had you had to light it and start it. Yeah, but it wasn't like the big old stove, you know, the heating stove or the big cook stove, you know. My dad put the kitchen stove in the basement because eventually, you know, like I said, as the years went by, things changed. There weren't that many kids anymore, you know, and he had the dirt basement concreted,
Okay.
and then they turned it into kind of a cool room, and he put the old stove after we had whatever you said down there, and they used that
So
sometimes.
it was still in use though. but
Oh
that's
yes, oh yeah, green. Yeah, it was a real nice stove.
They had a little more room in the kitchen then. too,
Yeah,
didn't it?
yeah, and let me see. Oh, it also had a wine press in it because when I went away to college, I liked to go shopping around, you know, and finding stuff, and it was really fun. Then I got married, and then I still like to do that, and I found a wine press, and my dad had planted a grape arbor.
Oh yeah.
And he had decided he wanted to make wine, and he had been making some wine. And I came down with this big wine press. It was, you know, a big wooden thing. And I said, Dad, I got a present for you. And,
Oh, I bet that fit right in.
oh, yeah, he used that. He really liked it. And when they quit housekeeping, my mom had, I don't know, anyway, my sister Mary had married Joe Blagg. And somehow or other, she ended up with the wine press. And then years later, Joe and she had separated, and she was out in the country by herself for a while, and she decided, I don't want to live here all alone. And so she called Knowles, and they came and took everything that she didn't want. And so the wine press was sold to, Knowles sold it. And maybe a year or so later, she said, you know, Kay, she said, I'm going to give you this money. And I said, why? And she said, because they sold the wine press. I said, they did? She said, yeah, and here's the money for it. Maybe $30. I don't remember what it was. But I said, well, you don't need to give it to it. She said, no, it's yours. You gave it to Dad.
You got a return on your investment then.
Yeah. I probably paid $10 for it because I like to bargain, you know, it's fun.
Hey, I'm going to go back a little bit here. We
Sure.
kind of skipped forward some. You graduated from the Clarksville School and went into Marshall High School. I'm sure.
Correct, and did not ride a bus. They didn't have any
how
bus.
did you get into town?
Well, we had a neighbor that we knew, and his name was Billy Murphy. Did you know Bill Murphy? Billy Murphy? Truman and Opal Murphy.
The names are all familiar, but I don't think I...
Well, they were Clarksville people. And, well, kind of, do you know where Treffs lived?
Uh-huh.
Okay, Murphys were a little bit down further than that. And then Buckner's, Leland and
Yeah.
Zelda, okay. In fact, I was talking to Zelda when you came.
Really?
Yeah. She lives here. Have you ever talked to her?
Not very often. She's kind of a phantom.
Yeah, she's hard to get a hold of. But she can talk and talk and talk, you know. But anyway, what did you ask me
Well, I
about?
was wondering if you had some fond memories of high school and how you got into town. That's what I'm talking about.
Well,
Did you...
we rode with Billy Murphy, and I'm sure that we paid like a couple dollars for gas for the week or something like that. And then after that, we rode home with him. And then eventually the bus service started, and then we rode the bus.
You went to the old school?
Yeah.
Do you have some fond memories of that, what it was like? Or?
Oh, yeah, it was fun. I loved the basketball. I thought that was such fun. And I was in GAA, Girls Athletic Association. And I liked home ec. You know, a lot of things that we did were things that we had learned in 4-H.
Well, yeah.
4-H was a very important part of the life for the kids who lived in the country, because we had already a teacher, you know, really somebody who was very interested in kids. And there was a lady named Mrs. Bertha McClary.
That name sounds familiar.
Well, her daughter lives here in Marshall. Her name is Hilda Jean McClary Claypool. She married Donald Claypool. Do you remember him?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
And she was the youngest daughter in the family. And the one next to her was Paul, and he used to chase us, and we didn't really care for him chasing us around, but we liked she was a wonderful teacher. We learned to sew and make things, and in fact, I was the first person to be in 4-H for 10 years in Clark County.
Nice year. A lot of practical things there.
Yeah.
You can use.
Oh, yeah, because we learned to speak. We gave demonstrations, and we would do that for the Home Bureau. And then they also had, I don't know what they called it, but they had speech day, so you could give us a speech on something, and or a demonstration on something. and you might demonstrate how to sew a button on. You know, I mean, really, people don't know that.
There are things you can use every day.
Yeah, and these were all practical things that we would learn, and we would maybe show people how to churn butter. I'll bet half the people never knew butter came out of a cow. You know?
And you ask kids today, the only place they would know would be IGA or
Yeah,
Walmart.
exactly. Ours came out of a glass jar. You had my mom in our pantry. It was a long pantry. We had no refrigeration. We had a little ice box that you could put stuff in. But after the cows were milked, you brought them in, and then she would have these crops. You know, a big. They called them a milk crock, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what she put in them. You know, milk, and they'd be all down the row. And you would let the cream. Let me see. I'm trying to remember just how you did that. Because we made cottage cheese too, but she would take the cream off the top, skim that off, and then put it in a glass jar, and then the kids got the arm work. You would sit there and shake, 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 shake. Oh, Mom, I'm getting tired. You know, she said, well, it's almost done. Just keep on a few
pretty
minutes.
soon you had some butter.
Yeah, pretty soon it was butter. And then you poured it into some water, cold water, as cold as you could get. We, like I said, we didn't have ice. And you rinsed all the milk out of it, you know, the bits of the butter. And then you patted it up together, and then you had a nice pat of butter. Good, too.
Oh
Yeah.
boy. On a hot roll?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, my mom. Oh, my gosh. You could smell those cinnamon rolls as you came down
I
the
almost-
road.
Oh, now.
I can't say sidewalk because we didn't have a sidewalk. But as you come down the road and into the yard, you could smell that cinnamon. Oh, did that smell good. And you would get a hot cinnamon roll. That was good.
Kind of moving up to that high school time we were talking about, what was your favorite subject in school? Did you have a favorite?
Hello?
Probably home ec.
Okay.
Hello?
Did
Hello?
you feel that was something then
This
that
is
you were
Shane.
able to use all through life?
Yeah, because it was,
Cooking and sewing?
yeah. Well, I liked sports too, basketball. Because I was pretty good at that. I ended up teaching sports.
I'm sorry.
Well, I was
do
wondering
not
from
have-
high school,
I'm sorry, I do not
and
have
I don't mean,
finance.
if you don't want to, what year did you graduate?
19, probably 50.
Okay.
And everybody else was getting married or had a job. And I didn't know what in the world I was going to do. I didn't even have a boyfriend that I wanted, you know. I mean, when we had parties, it was just a big group of us. There were very few people that were really knew that they really liked each other. And, you know, you might like somebody, but you weren't, no, that's the person I'm going to marry, you know. And I thought, gee, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then I have no idea why I went to college. No idea. But my dad, probably because of my dad, because he said, you know, Catherine, I know this lady, her husband has been a customer of mine for years, and they live right beside Charleston, Illinois High School. And he said, you could live with them. And I said, well, why? And he said, well, you could go to school there. And I said, oh, well, yeah, I could do that. I mean, really, the people were getting married or moving away. I mean, I didn't want to get married, and I didn't have a job. Some of them knew they wanted to be a nurse. Some of them knew that they wanted to work as a waitress. And I didn't want to do any of that stuff. But I you know, actually, do you remember Teddy Treff?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, he and my brother Joe Jr. owned Tom's Restaurant for a while.
Oh, did they? Okay.
And so Mary and I became two waitresses there.
Uh-huh.
And that was fun. It really was fun. And some man said, he was at the counter, and he said, "Would you come here for a minute?" And I said, "Yes. Could I help you?" And he said, "No." He said, "I wanted to tell you, you're the most diplomatic person I've ever met."
Today, that would help a lot on tips, too, wouldn't it?
Probably, yeah, yeah. Well, I did get a $40 tip. I did a party for, well,
That's big bucks.
that's that's what I did later. Do you want to know what I did later? What I ended up doing?
Well, we go through college. You registered for college then, obviously.
Yeah, and
What did you major in?
I had no idea what I wanted to take. I said, I don't know. And Dad said, "Well, why don't you?" He said, "Catherine, that would be my cousin, Catherine Treft. She graduated from there."
Okay.
And he said, "She's a teacher." And he said, "Why don't you just take something and maybe you'll decide what you want to do." And I said, "Okay, yeah, that sounds like a good idea." So that's what I did. And then I was in a play. I liked doing that. They had a play, Dark of the Moon. Well, my mom and dad came to see it because I thought it was great, but I guess it was not. I guess they raped a girl in it.
Oh, Mom and Dad were shocked.
Oh, yeah. My dad and my brother, Larry, they had come to see the play. It just had a small part in it, I wasn't doing but I was so excited. I thought it was wonderful being in a play. And, I didn't even know what rape meant. I didn't. And my dad said, "It's okay," he said, "but don't do anything like that again." He said, "You better find out what the play is about."
I can just see him saying that.
Well, yeah, and I think, what's wrong with the play, But have you ever read the play?
No, I guess I haven't.
And see, I just knew my part. And it was,
All innocence.
well, yeah, it had nothing to do with what Belle Slifer was doing. She was the one that, this beautiful girl was the person that was in trouble.
So you went 4 years and
Yeah,
graduated?
yeah, it was fun.
So you must have graduated then about 54?
Uh-huh. And then
With what degree? In teaching?
Elementary
Okay.
school. Oh, in fact, I liked college so much, and I told you that I liked basketball and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So I double majored.
Okay.
They allowed me to do that, take extra classes. And so I had a minor in physical education. And so I graduated like on the 5th, and I got married on the 7th. And I kept telling my husband I really don't want to get married yet. I want to, be free 1 year. And he said, "If you don't marry me, I'm not going to go to college, and I'm just going to go back to drinking like I was."
Ouch.
Yeah. And I thought, "Well, no, I don't want you to drink." And so I said, "All right, I'll get married then." But I graduated one day. See, my sister Mary was getting married to Joe Blagg.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to have a double wedding. And that was going to be in April. And I said, "Well, Mary, I don't want to get married that soon. I want to get married. I know I'll marry Chuck, but I just want to be on my own for a while." But he said, "Well, I'm not going. If we don't get married now, I'm just going to go back and be like I was." He was out of the Marines, and I'd never met anybody like him, but I did love him, And I said, "Well, I don't want to be the cause of him going back to drinking and stuff like that." So, and I knew I was going to marry him. But two of the people, and this was kind of sneaky on my part, because two of the people that I had always liked, but not loved, were returning from the service. And the one guy had been my boyfriend really in college, and before I ever met Chuck, but he had gone to the army. And the other one was somebody that lived in this area, and they were both coming home within the next month or two, and I said, I really would like to just, talk to him and just, but no, he said, if you're not going to marry me now, we're not going to get married. I'm leaving. I'm going to.
So you got married then right out of?
Yeah, I graduated then I think it was the 5th, and got married on the 7th, June the 7th. Oh, gosh. And then, so we moved into what they called the Quonset huts in Charleston. And that's where all the returned veterans were living, and it was quite a big city, really, at that time, because there's a lot of neighbors lived there, a lot of young people were, most of them were returned veterans, like my husband was. And so I don't believe I had a job at that time, but I was limited then. When I was married and living there, then I had to start looking at towns right around there. And so I got hired at Casey, Illinois, for a junior English. So remember I said I was an elementary major? Okay. So I thought, well, this was great. I'll do that. And I was really looking forward to it. And like the first week, I get down there, and they said, well, now, we notice that you have a minor in physical education, and we cannot find an English teacher. I mean, we cannot find a PE teacher at this time, but we can get an English teacher. Would you accept the physical education? I said, well, I guess. They said, well, it'll just be temporary. Said, you can teach the English later, but we just can't find somebody for PE. Well, they didn't look very hard, I don't think, because 2 years later, yeah. But I did enjoy the PE. That was fun. And we had some real nice times. I ordered sweatshirts one year. We all had sweatshirts that said Casey, Illinois on it. And,
you were living in Charleston, though. Right?
And I drove 30 miles there, 30 miles home. And then the next morning, early, 30 miles down, 30 miles home. And then my husband liked to party with all the neighbors, all the returned vets. And I met this couple, Joanne and Bill Lehman, and they had a little boy, Randy. And so we spent a lot of time at their house at night. So, really, I thought, gosh, I'm tired. I want to go home and go to bed. I got to get up early and drive to Casey the next day. But anyway, we persevered. And eventually, when my husband graduated then, he went into audiovisual. And the audiovisual director for Charleston became ill. And so my husband ran that department for like probably 2 years. And then when we went to, he was hired then to teach up in Arlington Heights, Illinois. And he had the highest salary, if anybody had ever graduated from Eastern at that time,
Wow.
$5,000.
Oh, that was big bucks.
Yeah, back then it was. $5,000. But the guy that was signing him up, he asked me, he said, "Oh, can't you teach?" And I said, "Well, I just finished teaching, but see, I was pregnant." And I said, "But I'm going to have a baby." And he said, "Well, we could," of course, not many people really did like they do now. I mean, they have a baby, they just take it to daycare. But there wasn't any daycare back then, you know. And I don't know that I would have done that anyway. No, my husband wanted me to stay home with the baby anyway. He didn't want me to.
So you moved to Arlington Heights then?
We lived with an older lady who was going to travel.
Oh.
So the furthest she ever traveled was to the grocery store and back home. Oh, she couldn't stand not being around that little baby. So she had to tell me how to do everything, which drives you crazy. And Charlie had a little birthmark on the top of his head. And I can't remember why she told me that was it, because I ate something wrong. You know, anyway.
Your husband's name was Chuck?
Chuck.
Miller? Chuck Miller?
But his real name was Charles Julian Miller the second. Oh, Junior. And then my first son then was Charles Miller third, I guess. Third. And then he had a little boy, and he was fourth, so there's four of them.
Wow.
Well, my husband died, and he got cancer. That was sad.
And what
But
year was that?
201, I believe.
Okay, now from Arlington Heights, were you still living there when he passed away? Or?
Oh, yeah. Well, no. We had bought a house. We lived in Palatine.
Oh, Palatine. Okay.
Palatine.
Know exactly where that is.
No, my husband had, if you know anything about audiovisual in that area, he was, like I said, he had run the department at Charleston for Dr. Nisker, and he was, had a heart attack, and anyway, so he knew a lot. When he went into the teaching position, he was hired to teach woodwork, or what's it called? It has another name. Woodworking, industrial arts. Industrial arts, yeah. And but they needed somebody for audiovisual, so he ended up doing that. And plus teaching too. He did both things. And this Joanne and Bill that I told you that we'd spent a lot of time with at Charleston, they went to a town up there called Hampshire, Illinois.
Okay.
It's it's a small town, but it's anyway. And so my husband said, "Bill, we go to visit them sometimes on Sunday." And he said, "Bill, you should come over to Arlington Heights." He said, "Because we're hiring," and he said, "we really need people like you." That he said, "You'd like it." So Bill and Joanne then came to live in Palatine, where we were, and we're still friends. In fact, she called to see what was wrong. I had a transplant, or one of those pacemakers.
Okay.
Yeah, they hauled me out on a stretcher from the doctor's office. I said, I went to see what was wrong with my stomach. Was kind of sore. And he said, "Well, you can't go." I said, "Well, no, I've got to go because I went downstate to see my sister." He said, "Oh, no, you can't go." And I said, "Well, why?" And he said, "Well, because." And he said, "You can't breathe." And I said, "What do you mean I can't breathe? I'm breathing." I said, "I'll go He said, "No, you have to go to the hospital." And I said, "Well, okay, I'll go take my car home. I'll run out to the hospital. What for?" And he said, "Well, no, you can't drive either." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, you can't drive." He said, "Because what if you pass out?"
Yeah, that's not safe.
And he said, "Wouldn't you feel terrible if you killed somebody because you passed out?" And I said, "Well, why would I pass out?" He said, "Because you can't breathe." And I said, "Well, I'm breathing." But I guess I was breathing 30 times, and you're supposed to breathe 60. So I was halfway there. So that's why they did a pacemaker then. So it's not that old, but it's healed up, you know.
So your residence then is Palatine then today?
Yes, it is.
Okay, nice suburb.
Yes, very nice. And
And your son lives in that area too?
the first son, Charles, is in Arizona,
Oh,
and I might go spend some time with them now. And
miss all that snow and ice.
oh gosh, I was a professional clown for 25 years.
Well, I was wondering if you were going to mention that.
Well, oh dear.
How
I
did you
don't
happen,
know.
how did you happen to get into that?
Well, because, like I said, I was had the teacher part in me, and my son had come back from Arizona. My second son, Joseph, and my husband told him he had to go to college and get squared away because he had a drinking problem, and he was able to do that. He became
Wow,
very nice kid.
wonderful.
He met a lovely lady, a wonderful person, and they have a very happy marriage, and they travel, and he is a professional fisherman. No kidding, he really
Well,
is.
it's wonderful he got on the right track.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, that's because my husband. He said, no, you have to join AA. You have to do da 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 da, and Joe did all of them, and he was able to overcome the sickness of drinking. You know, it's like me. I'm chocolate. I'm a chocolateholic. You know,
I love it.
yeah, you eat one.
So did someone, I guess, suggest you might try clowning or something? Or
No, you got that. Okay,
I guess
so
I'm interested in
Joe
how
was
that-
going back to college then, and so I thought, well, if my car is going to college, because see, he didn't have driver's license then at that time either, because he had to earn that back. So I was taking him to college, and I thought, I may as well take a few classes too. So I thought, well, what could I take? So I took art with him, and speech. That was fun. And then something else. Sign language. I started studying sign language, and it is. I knew every word in the sign language dictionary. This is sign language. Oh, and I learned the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And I thought, well, you know, why don't I do something with that? And I thought, well, now what could I do? I know what I'll do. I'll be a clown. I'll teach it. I'll teach clowning to little kids so when they go out to eat with their parents, they don't say, hey, Mom, what's that guy doing over there? They would know that he was deaf and he was signing. And I said, and they all these little kids will know what's happening. And so I came home and down here, you know, and I tell them, Dad, Mom, and Ag, and what I was going to do. And Ag says, my mom had passed away at that time, I think. Well, I'm sure she had. But anyway, Ag picked out the material, and it had the colors in it, because I said, I need something that's colorful.
Right.
I want the colors. I want yellow, red, blue, and green, and white, and black. And so they came out with this outfit. And the reason I'm sure that my mom had died, because my dad was, you know, of course, heartbroken when my mom died. But they had been friends with a couple up at Kansas, And the husband had been an invalid for many years, and he had passed away. And so one day, Dad, I don't know if he called, but he said, maybe we could have lunch together, because neither one had their spouse. And so from that time on, they became very good friends. And she made my outfits for me.
Oh, I see.
Uh-huh. And Ag picked the material out, and she made the outfits for me. And so I thought, now I can do this. So I did a couple. See, at that time, I was. How did I do that? My first party, I can't remember. I don't remember, but I studied. I went to clown college because I didn't want to be. Oh, you don't know anything. Oh, yes, I did. I practiced juggling. My dad said,
Wow.
Catherine, what are you doing? And I said, I'm trying to learn to juggle. My balls kept getting away from me. So I learned how to juggle. That's only to 25. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 25. And then I'd say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I have
in
trouble
sign
with that one, I
language.
think.
So when people would call after I'd studied to be a clown, then I joined the clown club. But I met a friend who was helping me do signs, and I mentioned to her that I was going to do some clowning. She said, well, I've got a clown outfit. Now this is before I had the other one. And I said, you do? Oh, well, you do not. She said, yes, I do. She said, yeah, my dad used to be a clown.
For heaven's sakes.
Yeah, I looked at her, I said, really? Well, do you know how to be a clown? And she said, well, I don't know. She said, I think there's a couple outfits. She said, we could try it. So we did. We put her outfits on, and I don't know, I think we went to a nursing home. And they loved it. They don't get that much at a nursing home. So they would like whatever we did, But we both had such a good time doing it. And so she kept helping me with see, I know the signs, but to read them back, it's so hard because deaf people talk real fast. And I have no idea what they said, But I thought that I could teach the signs to little kids, and they would at least know what that couple's doing it over that table, Mom.
Uh-huh.
They could say, Mommy, I think that person's deaf, and they're doing sign language. They wouldn't have to.
How did you, get out to people that you were available to do clowning?
Well,
did you have an agent or someone?
No, I did not. If people like what you're doing,
Word of mouth.
exactly.
Okay.
And like that guy said in the Tom's restaurant at that time, but I was diplomatic. People liked what I did. And they could tell that I liked doing what I was doing. So almost always, you do a party, you get another one. You do another one, you get another one. And then I made a coloring picture, for the kids to take home. And it just had my name on it and a phone number. And so a lot of people would, call. I really like this story. I had a call, and this lady wanted me to do her little baby's 1-year party. And I said, okay. I said, but gee, how did you get my name? And she said, well, about 4 years ago, you did a party for one of my friends. And she said, and I kept that. I thought, if I ever have a party, if I ever need a party, I'm going to call that clown.
Oh, man.
And I thought,
It worked.
well, that was sure a nice compliment. She wasn't even married. She wasn't even married.
Did you ever get into making the balloon animals?
Oh,
and stuff?
yes.
I'll
You want to
bet.
see one?
I've seen that done several times, and
I got all back here. I go out to the nursing home and make balloons for them.
okay, I always thought that was so fascinating.
Oh yeah, it
What
is.
comes
Oh
out
well,
of it?
see, remember I said I went to clown
Yeah.
college. No, I don't go
Well, that's
into
what
it.
I was making the assumption.
No, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. So I went to lots of balloon classes. Was that an explosion? No, it might have been Jay slamming the door.
May have been
Sometimes he gets mad. But where were we? Sometimes
You were talking about the clowns.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I went to balloon class, and then I taught clowning for 17 years.
Wow.
Well, I mean, I knew everything there was to know almost about clowning because I went to clown college. That was up in Wisconsin at the University of Wisconsin
Okay.
in Delavan, Wisconsin, and so then I taught. I think I went there two different class sessions, and then they have a lot of clown meetings. And you can go there.
Do I kind of hint from your say you did it for 25 years that you have retired from that, or do you still do some once in a while?
Oh, I do volunteer clowning.
Okay.
I could show you a lot of pictures of me doing clowning with what did I do with that thing? Oh, I can't use it because Jace used all the minutes on it. But go ahead and ask me something else while I get something.
So with your volunteer work, are you doing any other volunteer work to kind of occupy your time, or in retirement now? Are you just enjoying some free time?
No, between sickness things that happen, I take a lot of pictures and I give them to the handicapped people that I deal with because I do a lot of handicap things and I don't charge for it. It's just volunteer.
Okay, do you have a picture of yourself that we can use to put in with this program?
Well, here's one.
Oh my. Uh-huh.
Oh, hey, I just did something called Mrs. I turned myself into Granny OK. Because see this? It says Mizzou. My granddaughter gave me this. It says grandparent. And so I turned myself into Granny OK.
Uh-huh.
And then I was sold to the church. They had a money-making thing. And so I let them sell me. Now, I don't know what they sold me for, but they gave me a $40 tip when I did
Oh,
the
that's
party.
the one you told about. Oh, that's marvelous.
I just did it about maybe, before I had this.
Okay.
So, about 2 months ago. I'm going to see if is that Granny OK thing out here? That picture of me that I gave you? Oh. I don't either. I don't know what I did with it. Oh well. You don't want to see it anyway. It was just a picture of me in my granny outfit. I got a lot of clown ones, but
I will have this copied and then have Agnes get it back to you.
you want one like that or you want to?
Oh, unless you had one that you just wanted to give away.
Oh, probably. But I don't know if I, oh, okay. Now look through this.
Oh, I can just pick out
No,
one.
just look through them real fast.
That
You
you
said,
would
do
like-
I do anything anymore? I just did that one for Halloween. I just did it for Halloween. And I have, I think I'm Granny OK there in that Mizzou. But the girl with me was the Cat in the Hat.
Yeah, I saw that one. Well, we need to get back to the recording here. If
Okay, here. And that balloon, see?
oh yes, I love that. Now is that one we can use then?
I don't know about the other girls, but you can, here. Take this one. You can cut the people off if you want to.
Oh, okay.
Just cut me
Okay.
off. That's,
Thank you so much.
because that's what I do right now.
Okay, I'll give you. Now, did you want this one back then?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, I'll tell you, Kay, it's been a delight visiting with you. And I've enjoyed this so much, and it's exactly what we're wanting people to do is just simply, I say to everyone, they have a story. And to tell yours. There's
Well, I teach CCD. That's Catholic education. I teach that for, let's see, 7 years. I
Okay.
taught it with my kids. And then I taught it for 5 years, just regular, because my little grandkids started going, and I taught then. And then I'm teaching it right now.
wonderful.
I was teaching it until I came down here.
I think things like that kind of keep you in touch with what's
Oh,
going
yeah.
on. And
Oh, yeah.
that younger generation would be interesting to work with
Yeah.
also. Okay, there's a couple questions I usually ask about everyone. We've all got so many modern conveniences around us. If there was one of those you said, I just couldn't live without that, what would it be?
Probably, actually running water,
That's a good one.
telephone,
Telephone.
television, and the iPad,
Okay.
iPhone. You know, it keeps changing.
know.
You learn one thing, and by gosh, you got something else better than that.
Exactly. And tomorrow it'll be different too.
Oh yeah,
If you were in, say, another country, and you said, I'm from Marshall, Illinois, and I know you don't live in Marshall today, what would you tell them about Marshall and why it might be a good place to visit?
well, I would say they have a lot of nice stores that are local, and you don't have to walk very far to go to them. And the people are friendly, and it's safe,
That's a good one.
usually.
Okay, you've summed that up pretty well, I think. And again, I want to thank you so much for your afternoon. It's been a delight visiting with you. And this is not for necessarily for people to read or listen to today or tomorrow, but it is, as the name implies, for the future. And someone's going to look at this sometime and read it and say, gee, I didn't know that about Kay.
They'll probably say, wow. I
But
shouldn't have put in about drinking, I don't think. Is that still running?
Yeah.
Ooh. Well, there's a lot of people that have a drinking problem.
Oh, yeah.
And I really would like people to know that my son was able to
yeah, that's
do it.
because it's hard. I don't know for sure, but from what I've heard, it's very hard to change channels on that.
Well, he did it, and he has a beautiful daughter that's going in Mizzou right now, Missouri
Yeah.
University, and she is just a lovely girl. And his wife is a wonderful person, and you know, I mean, all those things, of course, add up to him being such a nice guy now. But he's on the internet holding a fish. He's also has his own business called Red's Auto, where he repairs automobiles
In what town?
in Barrington, Illinois, South Barrington.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember that. Well, again, it's just been so much fun, and I want to thank you.
Well, I thank you. I also have a son that's working, and then he's doing. The one in Phoenix is repairs Tempe fire engines. Can you imagine?
That's kind of a
And he's not a
specialty.
very big person either. Yeah, those big wheels are
Oh, yeah.
humongous. Yeah, he's done that for, about 25 years maybe. And then the other one, Mike, is, he is about ready to retire too. He works for a company making auto parts. and stuff like that.
Well, even though you live in a big town and a big part of a suburb, it's nice that you come back to Marshall. We're glad to have you come back here.
Well, I have a sister that's really nice.
So.